Welcome to the International Student Podcast by Prodigy Finance, your one-stop shop for all things finance and study abroad related. We're here to help transform your future one financial step at a time. Join us as we dive into the world of student finance, career advice, and inspiring stories from our global community. Let's unlock your potential together. Today, I am super delighted to welcome Vishrut. Vishrut is a graduate from Arizona State University, and this episode is called The Return of Investment of a USA Education. Vishrut, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Firstly, thanks again for having me. And I'm Vishrut. As she said, I graduated from Arizona State University, and before doing my masters, I graduated from Punjab Engineering College in Chandigarh. So over there, I did my bachelor's in computer science, and I did my master's in computer science with minor in cybersecurity at ASU. And right now, I'm the founding engineer of a startup called Pretty Pet Health, which is something we are trying to use AI to basically help women go through menopause and different conditions that they go through with menopause. So I'm the founding engineer. I build everything over there, and that's probably about it.
I really need to download that app. I am hitting into my 40s and I'm showing signs. I guess this is also a testament to return of education, the fact that working at a startup.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of skills that I gained, and the reason why I could actually lately, after like bachelor's, you do a few years of like work in India, and after coming here doing my master's, and immediately after like getting like something like a founding engineer job, the kind of skill to build that was totally due to our master's education. So definitely,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Are you the first in your family to study abroad internationally?
So in my family, it was like unthought of that someone can actually afford studying abroad, or this kind of painstaking process needs to be done. I mean, they have no clue about it. And I happen to be the first to actually do it. And to tell them that it's not that difficult to, like, the process becomes way easier. And let me tell you, Prodigy Finance was one of the biggest reasons why this could be possible. So um, this is something I definitely recommend just to my friends.
So, in your opinion, Vishrut, is a US education a worthwhile investment for international students?
So when it comes to every investment, it's not like a one size fits all thing. There are a lot of factors that go into deciding if there's this return of investment. Is it worth it? The whole process of applying to universities, the amount of money you spend, and the kind of returns that you get, is it worth it or not? And some of these factors are like the kind of course that you're trying to take. I believe there are certain, of course, it's not like, yeah, you study everything has equal value when it comes to what kind of knowledge you get. But in the real world market, it's not like every degree or every kind of specialization that you take will fetch you the right kind of opportunities. And when it comes to the US, STEM degrees definitely have something which, like, because the US really depends on STEM degrees, and a lot of students, I mean, there is a need for STEM students in the US. And that is the reason why there are more opportunities for STEM students in the US. So there are more opportunities for STEM students in the US, and that leads to more return on investment. Another thing being the kind of colleges that you take, it, even when it comes down to like location or the kind of courses that you take, their day-to-day expenses even. These kind of, there are a lot of decision making that goes into deciding if the pros and cons, whether like, do you spend more to stay at the location and you end up getting a degree which doesn't fetch you as many opportunities, or the other way around. So it's not like a one size fits all. Depending on different factors, you can decide whether it's like good for you or not. But in general, mostly, as long as you're a STEM student, as long as you're in within like top 25, top 30 universities in your field, good research and a good track record, more often than not, it's a really good return.
What about in your experience? Would you say that going to ASU, studying your master's, a good return of investment for you?
For me, definitely, because there are certain things that were missing when I was studying in India. That being like the kind of environment that you get, the kind of peers that you get, the kind of professors that you get, and also the kind of opportunities. All of these were quadrupled almost when I came to ASU. The kind quality of professors were really good. They really were knowledgeable. They were really interested in inculcating kind of culture where you ask more questions and think critically. Coming to like the kind of peers who aimed really high, who really thought that, we should be pushing our limits, and also the opportunities where people from really top companies, like you applied to them and you had an equal shot of getting through those companies, proving a skill. So all of these could only be possible if I had come to the US, if I had studied ASU. So for me, I think it will definitely be a great return of investment. I feel like we met some of the most intelligent people here, got to learn a lot, and personal growth that I got over here was definitely worth it.
So that speaks about some of the intangible things that you get from an education. Can you talk to us a little bit about more about that?
Definitely. Let me so I remember what these classes were like distributed database systems. When I was in my undergrad, all we were taught is like basic databases, what you run on your local system. Distributed means something which would basically distributed across different systems, and basically how you share the data, how you manage data, and how you make sure that everything is working fine when you have to collect it at one place. So basically how the modern internet works. So thinking at this scale, thinking about problems at this scale, and coming to know about people who have already dealt with these problems and their perspective over here. Because when you do like bachelor's education, is mostly when you have people who are coming new to the field. But when it comes to masters, there are more often than not, there are people who you share your classroom with who have already experienced the kind of problems that our industry is facing. And getting that kind of a perspective from people, and also people who like say you are not prepared enough, say, because more often than not you don't know everything. So when you enter a class and when you are not the smartest person in the class, that's the kind of environment that people should be seeking, right? And
Yeah,
I feel like this kind of education provided you that kind of experience where you are not the smartest person, you get to seek, you get to learn,
you
and you get to
learn from
compete.
others.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's I don't think this kind of an experience is something you can get anywhere else. This kind of I mean, yeah, I mean, this is like one of those things that when people say that you need to, in order to achieve something, you probably have to like venture out of your comfort zone, and this is exactly that. You're venturing out of your bubble. You're finding new diverse opinions and objectives. So that's what helps people grow, and that absolutely did it for me. I feel.
Earlier on, you mentioned start doing a STEM course is a great return of investment or in education. Is it only STEM?
I would hate to say that. I mean, as I said, humanities degrees or degree. I mean, STEM. The reason why I emphasize on STEM, they're twofold. Firstly, when you think about return of investment, you also think about how is your life after your degree is over, like when you get your jobs a lot. And in America, when you do a STEM degree, you get additional years of OPT. So instead of having 1 year of OPT, you get 3 years, and that increasing the chances of getting an H1B and making sure that your career progression remains long compared to different degrees. And secondly, STEM, as I said, there is a dearth for STEM graduates, really good quality STEM graduates in the US even today. And filling this gap is like there's a huge opportunity here. You need to fill this gap to not just for the US, not just for your personal growth, but also for the growth of this whole industry. As now you see that AI is advancing really well. My startup literally started off in January of 2024. And right now, I mean, with the growth in AI, we just pivot really quickly. We make sure that we are like in touch with how the industry is progressing, and all that knowledge that you get, all that use that knowledge happens only in the US. So I believe STEM, again, coming back to the question, I think STEM has a disadvantage here, also advantage here compared to different other courses because of all these factors. Like if you're looking at holistically return of investment, it skews higher in favor of STEM as
Can you talk to us a little bit about what are the typical costs associated with studying in the USA for international students to consider?
so the big ones, of course, are like the tuition fees, and that's where Prodigy Finance mostly covers tuition fees as well as your cost of living. Cost of living includes like your rent, your food, your daily expenditure. That could be anything, and then as a student, you're living there, you're living in a new place, you would definitely would like to explore. So there are some missing experiences on like traveling or maybe other like amenities that you may need because you don't live in a bubble cage. Some of these expenses are definitely things that may seem like small compared to like the size of your tuition fees, but they keep piling on over the years.
Yeah.
So these are some of those. Other expenses that I could think of mostly are related to maybe something like, when, say, for example, I was doing a computer science, I need a special kind of hardware to do stuff. I need like the higher end laptops and stuff like that, access to like really good servers and stuff like that. So these kind of expenditure, they're small, but they keep adding up. But these are something to look out for. And
Mm.
talking about expenses, budgeting is super important. Um, I personally happen to use an app. I feel like every problem that you have can be solved with an app. I love saying like that, but yeah. So I have this app called like Copilot, which I keep strict budgets based on like different categories, and this has helped me to like make sure that all these micro like transactions that I was talking, micro expenses that I was talking about, they don't add up. So I have a limit based on like if I spend so much over this time, I make sure that next time I don't exceed the limit. So these kind of practices are something which I developed this habit over like 2 to 3 years, and that has
Mm.
definitely helped me a lot.
Mm. Mm. How would they directly translate, considering expenses to return on investment?
What you're saying, but yeah, good.
Yeah, like the higher the expenses, would it
Mhm.
mean that the better the return of investment?
Well, let's put it this way: it's like you would want to be in your like net positive at the end of the day, right? The amount of money you spend versus what you return, you should be a net positive. Everyone wants that,
Okay.
right?
How was
And
it
what I
the net positive? What do you mean by that?
so the amount of money that is spent versus the amount of money that you get, the amount of money that you get should be higher than what you spent.
Okay. So in
Basically,
that
that's
case,
what
would you
the goal is.
say go for a course that has a lower tuition and lower expenses to get maximum return?
I was going into that. You should actually look at the bigger picture here. It's not like just you do like you don't get in the microcosm of doing the course and a few years after that. You look at your overall life and the trajectory of life that it takes you to. And I think, like I said, the different factors that I told that you weigh in and even introduces things that you get in return. Doing a master's in a really good course in a really competitive environment gives you a really good chance at getting an internship or maybe a full-time job and maybe even like a position that you're going to reach in your life to maybe like how close are you to achieving the goal that you had in your life. Um, Maybe if you look at internships and full-time jobs and things like that, they can definitely translate into like a specific monetary figures that show that, over time you got a definite net positive. Make the comparison that if you had done probably the same course in India, probably did not do it at all, or maybe just continued with the job in India. After a certain amount of years, you think that you would have reached to a position where you are right now or not.
Yeah.
Other than that, as I said, like these are like monetary goals, and some people even have like different kinds of ideas that they want to achieve in life. So, for example, if someone wants to pursue a PhD. Doing a PhD is pretty difficult, and you may not always get the kind of monetary returns that you're expecting, like how you do it in a corporate job. But
Yeah.
some people have the goal to like, reach some kind of breakthroughs in the field, and probably you cannot put a price tag on that. And still, the experience that you get at like in America, that is worth it or not. I would say if something that helped you achieve that goal, that would definitely, in my opinion, be worth it. So I think yeah, looking at the bigger picture is something what we should take away from this discussion.
But how do you predict that bigger picture? So, if you haven't even left your home country, so let's just say I'm an international student in the research phase of my study abroad journey. I'm researching. How can I predict what my journey or the bigger picture would be?
I hate to say this, that you cannot see the future. Unfortunately, right now we cannot. You can only do is predict, and the best way to predict probably is numbers and data, and trends. And looking at like previous cases, also things change pretty quickly again. For
Mm,
example, nobody had predicted that inflation would be going up this year. It's insane. And,
yeah.
and nobody can predict that what's going to happen in the next 2, 3 years. And all you have to do is take a risk. at the end of the day, all that we do is take a risk on our future. We gamble on our future. To put it sounds pretty blunt, but that's what it is. I mean, the best you can do is gather all the data that you can, talk to as many people as you can, and have no unanswered questions before you start this, because this is quite, I mean, if this is a fork in the road, if we life, this is a quite big a fork. I mean, coming back from this is very, very difficult. So if you're going if you're deciding whether you should take this or not, you better have all the questions answered. Again, I don't think I answered this question as well, but I think there is no other way to predict other than data, the raw data.
So that's a really good answer. Data-driven decisions, I think, especially when making this big decision. Also, Prodigy Finance has a super useful tool on the website. So when you visit prodigyfinance.com, there is a return of investment calculator. It can tell you how much you will earn after graduation. So yeah, go check that out. So earlier on, you mentioned the importance of budgeting, and you do that now. A student who's still back home, say in India, or they haven't even left, how important is, budgeting and financial planning at that stage of the journey?
So let me first like talk about the Copilot and stuff like that.
Yes.
Budgeting firstly is like important at every stage of your life, not just like during a student phase or when you're like earning or not. Budgeting is like a habit, and you need to like inculcate this habit as soon as you can. And if you're doing it from India, that's even better. That's something that I did not do. And I mean,
Okay.
very first year, I remember the very first year. So a lot of times, like it happens that when you like come to the US and you struggle to get a non-campus job or stuff like that. Fortunately or unfortunately, that did not happen with me. When I came to the US, like straight up, I got a really good TA, and that really waived off my tuition fees for that year.
Wow.
So, well,
How
that's
did
good.
you
Yeah.
how did you get that?
I was doing cold emails. I was talking like this is one good thing that I got from like talking to other people. They told me to really like the importance of cold emailing and talking to your professors beforehand. So as I'd already chosen my courses beforehand, I got to talk to my professors. And one difference I remember that I made compared to other candidates who are applying for TA-ship was telling them that I have experience in teaching. I did not have any experience in teaching. What I did was just mention them that during my junior year in college in undergraduate, I actually helped teach my fellow students, my friends, theory of computation and automata theory. I love automata theory and Turing machine and stuff like that. I taught them and they got really good grades. And the
So
professors
you
actually
do have teaching experience then.
I had literally said that, and the professor was like, impressed. He told me, nobody tried that before. He ended up giving me that position. That's what I like a lot. I reached out a lot when people asked on LinkedIn to see that I have a teaching TA ship in my very first year in my campus. I remember when I landed on like ASU campus, people told me that don't even bother applying to TA ship because nobody gets it in the very first year. And I just
Look
did
at
it. It happened again.
you. Oh,
Well,
amazing.
yeah. So yeah, what I was saying was, when I got this TA ship, I really got paid well. I just like really, really good amount, and also my tuition fees were waived for that year. And I was not good at budgeting, and I made a lot of mistakes, which I believe in retrospectively I shouldn't have. Mistakes like I won't say frivolous spending. It's just mistakes like being a little too careless about thinking that the future is going to be the same way that it is. It's not going to be like that. So budgeting is something that helped me later on. Budgeting again, circling back to what you had asked. So is the Copilot app, it does not just tell you like budgeting, it just tells you like this is something that you can do in a day-to-day life. So categorize your spends, prioritize them, and make sure that you don't exceed your limits that you set for yourself. And in case you did, make sure that from the next month you deduct the same amount. So be accountable. So that's all the habit that you need to build, even if you don't have access to Copilot app in India or whatever. But this habit is something that you need to build, and this kind of discipline is what helps you get through like tough days. Because let me tell you this: when you are in the US, when you are like away from home, tough days are gonna be there, and you better be sure that you're prepared. So this is just one of the tips that I got when I was starting off, and happy to pass this on.
As beautiful as studying abroad is, and how rewarding it is tough. Vishrut, I just wanted to talk a little bit about your career. So, okay, how does a US education impact the career prospects and the earning potential of international students, both in the US and in their home country?
So, firstly, again, depending on your course again, but let's just talk about my experience. Definitely a lot. I believe if you look at like average earning potential in India for my kind of qualifications versus in the US, it's definitely like like easily orders of magnitude higher, and that in US dollars is pretty good. But the number of opportunities is again it's highly dependent on the turbulence in the market, and the market is not always the best, but more or less is definitely better than what it is in compared to India. So this education that you get, the kind of experience that you get definitely translates to better kind of opportunities that you get, but availing those opportunities might be difficult depending on the related competition that you have. Because again, the opportunity number of opportunities might be like similar or maybe even lower than these days, but the number of people who are trying for those opportunities is definitely increasing. So getting them might be a bit difficult. Just for a moment, let me talk about getting a US education. How does it translate to on a global scale? And US universities, as long as you join really good universities who have really good reputation and the good kind of peer group that you can get, translates really well abroad, translates really well across the globe, even back to your home country. It's really prestigious. The kind of knowledge and experience that you have gathered is definitely something that puts you at a really huge edge compared to other people competing in any other place like elsewhere. So this kind of education is definitely valuable. In the US, is definitely more valuable again because of the kind of opportunities that you get. The sheer number of opportunities is way higher in the US still compared to anywhere else in the world. Now that being said, there's a common misnomer that if you look at the supply demand kind of a situation, the supply being the number of students and the demand being the number of opportunities, there's always a balance between supply and demand, at least compared to 2022. After that, the supply kind of increased, whether demand remained the same or probably even decreased, as I said. And that trend probably continues when it comes to like, it's too early to say how's it going to be in 2025. And it's too early to say how it might be. So, for example, if a student is joining in a university right now in 2025 and they graduate in 2027, there's no way of telling how it might be there at that point. So again, like, coming back, like how I said earlier, is like the risk that you're taking. You should really consider that the kind of risk that you're taking right now might be higher compared to what it was back in 2022. I know it's like it might sound like something a bit too negative or something like that, but it's still better than what it is in the home country right now without the kind of education that you're getting. So just a point is,
Yeah, that's some really valuable insights. Thank you. And I don't think it's got to do with it being negative. I think it's realistic. And I mean, you are currently in the US. You are going through and experiencing the realities of a competitive job market and changes in the market. I'm sure your family are so proud of you. How did you land the job of being a founding engineer at a startup? Can you talk about that experience for a little bit?
So these days, as I said, I would say after 2022, things have really changed. And I graduated in 2023, and I'm like one of the, how would I say, like not a lot of people who graduated in 2023 graduated straight out of college with a job opportunity in hand. So for some time, I really had to do like volunteering and like sharpening up my skills to make sure that, I'm up to date with everything that's going on. So I think what helped me, I definitely, it's not like I just graduated and I landed a job. That didn't happen at all. I had to struggle quite a bit. I remember, like applying, right, like doing, like 120 to 300 to 400 even applications a day. Did that. Um, like doing like preparing for interviews and stuff like that. Did that, of course. But what definitely helped me a lot, I cannot stress this enough, is networking. So
Mm.
I remember even probably reached out to a few staff members from Prodigy if they could know people who could reach out to different people. I did that. Also, like I was talking about, what happened at ASU was I got to meet some really intelligent people who had a really good peer group. They could, because I had worked with them on campus in the past, so they could vouch for me at different other places. So I remember one of my friends, really close friend of mine, he also happens to be a founding engineer at a different startup. And in Arizona, there's something called Arizona Nerd Network. Right. Like every month they have a meeting where different startup founders in Arizona, they come up and they discuss
So
about what they're working on. Yeah.
the university
It's
is
not a
also quite,
university.
it's not a university initiative.
No, it is not in university. But I got to know people who like, it's like I know a guy who knows a guy who told me about this thing. That
I
and
love.
that guy happened to be at the university. So that's the thing. So the Arizona Nerd Network happened to be one place where the founders meet to talk about what they're working on and what the requirements are. And someone just happened to tell that this is the kind of requirement I want. And this guy said, like, my friend's boss ended up suggesting me to them. And that's how I met my current boss. Like, so that worked out. And so that's what I was saying. Like, you might like end up working too hard on like applying things or upskilling. You should definitely like work hard on networking. Also, I hear this a lot, these days when people say that AI is like progressing so fast that it might even end up taking jobs. And a lot of people tell you that is it really difficult to get a job these days because AI probably does the job that you don't really do. And that's where they answered their own question, I believe, because AI is definitely not taking jobs. It's like it's pushing you to do something which was not meant to be done by you at all. I believe like when technology advances, it does that kind of a job that you were not meant to be doing. You were meant to be doing something more complicated than that. So I believe keep pivoting, keep learning what's new and keep make sure that you are ready that, if AI is taking up this job, probably that is easy, do something which is more difficult. And that kind of a mindset is what probably helped me not break the barrier, talk to like founders and sure that I'm ready for the point where AI does the coding for you. So what do you do when AI does the coding for you? You build the infrastructure. And AI is not perfect. So we have to make sure that whatever output that AI is giving, make sure that that's the right output. And especially in my field, as I said, I work in healthcare. So there is no margin of error because, like when they're talking a bit about like menopause and the research behind it. Nowadays, I believe, not I believe, it's that the data says that not a lot of research has been done on menopause.
Mm.
Um, and there's a lot of like like misnomers and the knowledge that been passed down from generators might not technically be the right information. So it is more important for us right now that AI gathers the right kind of information and presents it in the right format, like to make sure that people are not misguided. So solving these kind of problems are really paramount. This is still something that AI cannot do it and needs a lot of human intervention and upskilling yourself so that you are AI proof, if you may. So doing this is what helps you in your career, in my opinion, and that's what probably helped me.
How can international students leverage their US education to gain a competitive edge in the global job market? What advice do you have for international students to ensure that they are, they have an edge and they're standing out from the rest?
I think it comes down to, if I had to say simply, basically build a brand for yourself. It's simply said, but a lot goes into it. Firstly, if you come to the US, the main advantage that you get is a peer network and a network for your professors. Your professors are working on something which is cutting edge in our field. So right now, if you look at models which can solve like complicated math problems really easily, and that is the kind of model that's available to the public. But in research space, in academia space, something where your professors are working on, they are working on models which are easily 5 to 10 times better than what is available to the public. So getting to talk to these professors based on what the cutting edge technology does, actually what they're working on, getting exposure to that. And in order to build a profile using that cutting edge technology to build a product and tell people about what you have built is something which builds a brand, that builds like a reputation for you. So that is something that does more than what your resume does. If I can tell someone that this is the product that I worked on in my past time, is something that I worked on with, is something that is going to be used in the industry in the future. Like I said, the professors are working on technology which is easily 5 times ahead of what is in the public. So eventually it will be in the public. And by the time you will be ready to use that technology. So leverage this kind of knowledge that you can get on campus. Not just professors. I mean, even people who, I feel, like I said, you get really smart people on campus. It's up to you to seek them. And again, be in a room where you're not the smartest person in the room. Be there. And that's how you get through, I believe. The more you stay like updated with what's going on. And the more you inculcate that knowledge in your practical experience to be practical enough to be a builder. I think this answer more catered towards how I did it. And that's how I selected. I just built that kind of a product or brand. So that is what puts you ahead compared to everyone else. I believe this is the kind of advice that if I had received earlier, I could have inculcated this earlier. And not a lot of people do this. So easily by doing, like, even by starting off with something as basic as this, you can put yourself a few steps ahead from the competition. So that's really helpful.
The big question is it all worth it?
So considering you have done your research, considering that you know everything, your questions are all answered, and you have really lofty goals and you believe that you can achieve those goals, I believe the return of investment is definitely worth it. Don't look at the small picture, look at the big picture. And over the years, the amount of growth that you will get, not just in your professional, personal life, but even with the skills that you develop, the kind of connection that you make, I think it's definitely a huge positive on return on investment. I think it's definitely worth it.
Great. And just remember to visit the Prodigy Finance website. We have a return of investment calculator, which gives you kind of a rough estimation of your earning potential after you graduate. Vishrut, thank you so much today for joining us. I know it's pretty late where you are, so thank you so much.
I hope I was helpful. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Absolutely. I found this super valuable, and I know that our listeners will as well. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the episode of the International Student Podcast by Prodigy Finance. Remember, your future is within reach. With the right knowledge and support, you can achieve your dreams. Remember to visit the Prodigy Finance website to learn more about funding options and to start your journey today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and dreaming big.